Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
I'm ready.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Austin Linney here, and my twin, Mr. Colin.
Yes, absolutely. Colin Douthit, actually.
But your hair is much redder than mine, and I don't know. It's more like you're more like our brethren. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a really good friend that sometimes we go out together, and he thinks we're brothers because he's taller like I am, and his hair is even like brighter orange than mine. And it's like, are you guys brothers? We're like, no, man, his is like fiery red. So,
well, we seem to find each other,
Yeah.
But guys, before we get started and talk about what he does, I want to thank our sponsor for the podcast, Dream Chasers Podcast. Go check it out. Make sure you see what they got going on. But Mr. Colin, why don't you tell us about what you do, my brother, and we'll get rolling here.
All right. I am a property manager, construction guy, and a real estate investor. So started out as a real estate investor. Background on me. I'm a professional engineer, civil, architectural, construction, that sort of thing. Got a PE license, started investing in real estate, got fired, said no more corporate world, built up my holdings a little bit. That spurred me to start a property management company, started a construction company, did not operate that very well. So I brought in one of my buddies that I went to school with, also an engineer, construction guy. Said, hey, let's do this together. You run construction, I'll run PM. So now we've got a PM company, a construction company, and real estate investments.
All right. I love it. And so what's interesting about the property management aspect of the business, I hear, and I'd be interested in your take on it, I hear from a lot of people two things. One, we can't find a good one. Second is we couldn't find a good one, so we created our own. And so are those both things true, or is that kind of how it happens?
I created my own for two reasons. First, I was tired of managing my own properties because we got up to about 50 doors, 60 doors. And it's like, I should start a company. I don't want to give the money away. It wasn't an expense issue. It was also kind of a geography issue. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, well, maybe I could have my own PM and then have them generate enough income to pay for themselves. And then I could get my properties managed for free. I started looking into it. I was like, I think I kind of like this recurring revenue business model. So then I really got excited about the business model side of things. Mm-hmm. And we then decided that we want to perform excellently because we know that there's a lot of bad PMs out there that give the industry a bad rap.
And I think ultimately what I've seen from my buddy's company here in Texas is if you have your systems right, the vehicle of property management can be a real moneymaker. If you're treating your customers well and your systems are dialed in.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a good business. It's definitely got ebbs and flows. It's a percentage of revenue generated or income generated and collected. So, COVID makes us all get a little bit scared when they're putting eviction moratoriums out and people don't have jobs. But yeah, it can be. You have to work on your systems, work on your optimizing the utilization of your staff as well, because overstaffed kills you since it's a service industry.
Mm-hmm. And what states and areas do you operate currently?
We're in Kansas and Missouri, so right around the Kansas City area, about an hour radius around Kansas City. And
what kind of volume or what kind of assets does your construction company do? What kind of business do they do?
So they are generally fed by our Atlas Property Management. Atlas Construction is generally fed by them. So, our value proposition to owners is we're a single source, single point of contact for your construction and for your property management. Because, sometimes if you're out of state investor, you're trying to manage both aspects of that. You're trying to manage the property manager, manage the contractor, then they're butting heads with each other and they're pointing fingers. And we're like, listen, we'll bring in professional property management. We'll bring in professional project managers. We'll operate the whole thing for you, single point of contact, and streamline it.
And so is that more on the remodel side when an investor's buying a property, or is that new construction?
Mainly remodel, reposition, whatever you want to call it. We do a lot of rehabs on the vacant units, the exteriors, the interiors, that sort of thing.
And so, because here's where it gets interesting. The property manager lens is different than a construction lens. Mm-hmm. So does your construction your PM guy and your construction guy, is that ever conflicting? Because, he's trying to move on to the next project. You're trying to get renters in. It's kind of a different game.
Yeah, it is. So, we can all agree that we want to get the units done as fast as possible. That is the goal for everybody. We want to minimize downtime, and the more units we turn on the construction company, the more money we can make, as long as we're doing the work correctly. Where the conflict comes is we actually have, they're two separate entities. So our maintenance coordinator on the property management side, he does a post-construction inspection on our construction guys. So he's kind of the QC for construction. So they have no alignment of interest there. So if we're doing that QC, we are able to, say, hey, look, here's your punch list. You missed these items. You need to address them. So
I love that. And so when somebody is going to rent out a unit, or they're going to turn a unit for a new renter, what are the areas that you think investors / just everybody in general misses that y'all seem to catch the most?
When we're going to go update the units?
Generally? Yeah, when you're going to update the unit. What do you think somebody's looking for? Meaning, because you have to protect the cash flow for the investor, and then you also have to make it nice.
Yeah. I mean, so the couple that, one item that's a little expensive, but it makes a big difference is flooring. So if you've got really worn out carpet or really worn out hardwoods, those kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Paint's pretty easy and generally decent in most, unless it's got a bunch of holes punched in it. To me, my kind of pet peeve that makes it look patched together or dated is going to be mismatched hinges, door pulls, drawer pulls, doorknobs, light fixtures, and plumbing fixtures. So you walk into a room and you got a gold doorknob with gold hinges, you've got a chrome bathroom faucet, and then a brushed nickel light fixture. And that drives me crazy. It looks so patchwork to me.
That's a great point. I never even thought about that.
Oh yeah. And then the hinges too, right? Oh, look, we put a brushed nickel doorknob on it. You look over, they got gold hinges that are 30 years old that are now brown. It's like, come on, like those are $2 a piece.
Yeah.
It's the right thing.
And ultimately, if that's the level of detail that you're carrying into the job, which now that you say it out loud, makes me hope that everybody does, but I know that's not the case, then I would imagine that your investors and everybody that you're working with feels real good about the product they're getting.
I mean, I sure hope so. We're consistently able to increase rents, 95+% of the time. They say this is our target rent and we hit or exceed that. Only in very few areas do we have issues where comps support it, but they can't get it rented for who knows what reason. But yeah, generally we, we're performing at a level that, our construction looks good enough that we're able to rent them out and, manage expectations as well when the investor is buying the property. So, hey, we think we can rent this property for $825 with a rehab. Okay, great. Our numbers work. But then we can actually get it rented for $850 or $875. We know we can do $825, but anything above that's bonus that we're going to try to push the market on.
And how many units do you manage currently, and how many do you own yourself?
So currently we're at about 680, approaching 700 here pretty soon. But actually by April 1, our pipeline's showing that we'll probably crack 1,000 total under management.
Okay.
So we're excited to hit that milestone.
Yeah.
And then myself, I've got ownership interest in about 70 to 80.
And in the properties that you're managing, are these entire apartment complexes or SFR single families?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah,
what's the largest apartment that you run?
We've got a 62 unit, and we're getting ready to take on 123 unit. At the end of February.
And what's easier, 10 SFR homes or a 62 unit?
Yes.
What's that? Which one?
Yes. No, they both have their ups and downs. From a time investment standpoint, a management standpoint, everybody's like, oh, we'll get the concentration. That'll be good. The concentration really lends itself to being able to buy the doors at a lower price generally. The management of a multifamily, it has just different challenges. We're having to make sure we're coordinating snow removal, lawn care, common area maintenance, landscaping, cleaning the common areas, et cetera, as opposed to a single family home. We're renting it. Now there's, theoretically kind of like more systems possibly per door, more linear feet of everything that can break in a single family than in a multifamily. But, they both have their ups and downs. Single family is probably easier to manage. But from our side, if, we have 100 people that have single families, or we have 5 people that have 20 doors each in multifamily, it's going to be a lot easier because we've got less relationships to manage on a daily basis. When we're making owner distributions, it's less reports that we have to generate and funds we have to transfer. So
any investor that's out there that's buying into multifamily on the single family level, from a property manager point of view, where do you think the threshold is for unit count that you need to bring in a professional management company?
It depends on, if you're out of state, I would say any.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into the out of state stuff, but I'd be interested, just your point of view on this, because everybody talks different.
My point of view is bring it in at one, but realistically, if you've got a full W-2 job, you're working 40 hours a week, how much time do you want to devote to running maintenance calls, collecting rent, etc.? If you've got 1, 2 doors, maybe a fourplex, you could probably handle it yourself, but it can start to be a real time suck. Depends on the level of your asset as well. If there's a bunch of maintenance going on, you're going to have a ton of calls. But I would always push for a property manager, because even though they're taking a percentage of your income, a good property manager will be getting you more than that through the appropriate maintenance calls, charging back the tenants what should be charged back to tenants, as well as working to push your rent. Anytime we take over a property that was owner operated, the rents are always below market rent. We're able to really capitalize on that.
And I think what's interesting is that if you look at it from a context, whether you have 1 unit or 2 units, you have to build your portfolio and put systems in your portfolio as if you're scaling up. And so if you've got the 15 units and then you try to bring in the property manager and your stuff's all out of whack, that's going to be a rocky road unless you started it from the beginning. Yeah.
We had an investor. He's a great investor. He lives in California, and he was self-managing 12 units in Kansas City, 3 fourplexes, and they were all kind of, set up with vouchers. So it was a little bit easier. But he was coordinating maintenance from California, 2 time zones away, and more power to him. He did a good job. It wasn't a total disaster when we took it over, but he just reached the point where he's like, a threshold for mental capacity and time is tapped out.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting, is because the more people I talk to, the more people I interview on the podcast, there's multiple people that have 15, 10, 16 units out of state. They've never seen them. And so they rely on somebody like you, who's their eyes and ears with the construction company. And so for anybody that's listening, that's an out of state investor, talk about the pros of having a team like y'all, because I know how good you are, to be able to invest. Maybe, let's say you live in LA and you can't afford the prices, but to be able to go into a Midwest market and get after it.
So what's the pros of bringing us on? So yeah, the pros are going to be, you're buying an asset. Most people are buying for some sort of value add, whether that's through construction or through operational efficiencies. So working with a PM, such as myself, that understands that, we can then point out what's good money to spend and what's bad money to spend to hit that. And we can help you evaluate a property through the due diligence process and say, hey, here's your, here's where you can improve financially. Okay, we can get your rents up to this. We can implement a RUBS to get your utilities under control. We can implement a common area maintenance fee. Here's, something that should be getting pushed back on the tenants. It's not. We can start looking at those things and say, okay, here's how you can build an accurate pro forma. Here's what you can expect.
I love that. And what's interesting, to circle back to what you said earlier, a lot of people, guilty as charged, start a business. We die on the ego sword, that we can do it and we got it right. And so, kind of unpack and talk about, was that a struggle to bring your buddy in, or was it just something that, like, you weren't covering the basis as best as you wanted to?
Both. So the property management had started to gain some pretty good momentum, and so had construction, because I kind of sold it as a package deal. And I was not effectively managing the projects to where we were making money on the construction side. We weren't hitting deadlines, and starting to realize that I probably got fired as a project manager from my last construction job because I wasn't good at it. And he had the entrepreneurial bug that I do. And, like I said, I've known him for 15 years when we got started together. And I was like, listen, Adam, I was like, you understand construction. And he started looking at me like, he was like, you don't even have it priced right. He's like, your margins are all wrong. I was like, explain that to me, so, so anyway, I like to think that I have a little bit of an ego, but I'm also can be really humble. And I'm like, listen, I need your help here. Like, you come in, here's the opportunities that I can bring to the table. Let me focus on what I'm good at, which is sales, which is vision casting, which is putting all the systems in place. Get the systems in place. I just need somebody to help execute the systems. I was like, listen, I'll bring you leads for days. I just need you to execute on construction. Well, I know that he's managed, multi-$100 million projects internationally. I knew that he could handle a handful of renovations, and he's done a great job. And I knew that for me to succeed, I needed more help, and I was willing to give up equity, and I was willing to, be humble enough to say, listen, I can't do this alone, because you can't. There's always a team.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part as an entrepreneur, and it's kind of my go-to this week. I seem to have themes that I hang on to, whether it be my reading or something. I think a lot of times let's say there's a big tree, and we as an entrepreneur walk out on said limb, and we get to the end of it, and then we go, what the fuck are we doing here? I don't want to be here. And I did that with Airbnb, and it was it's an ego death, because in my head, dude, I want to be the Airbnb guy. Wait, I hate this. And I think you have to have a real conversation with yourself, which I think the secret weapon is self-awareness.
Yeah. And that's something that I've really always kind of been aware of myself, and what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And this, that was kind of me, overrunning my skis a little bit, or whatever you want to say. But, being aware to know that I am, and then looking at the performance and saying, I am not performing where I want to be for the company that I want to build. And now we're running and we're doing what I want to do. And we're right back in there. So
100%. And so as you scale and you get to the 1,000 units, is there any other ancillary avenues within the vertical of real estate that y'all are looking into?
We're looking to buy more, probably, is, now that we've got our systems in place, and we're like, well, there's a value add fourplex or 8 units. Oh, that, hey, we can really handle that. And we know how to operate that. And we, because I've owned it for a while, but now we're getting really good at some of that stuff. So yeah, we'd love to start some other verticals as well to service it. Possibly some other service companies. We do our own maintenance as well. So that's another vertical that we've tapped into. We don't outsource much of our maintenance unless it's, a big plumbing job or roofing job or something like that. So,
and it's funny. That's what people don't talk about enough is the maintenance aspect of owning real estate. And it's kind of, I go back and forth. I don't know. And I'd be interested to hear your point of view. A house is great until it isn't. And, I think maybe I travel a lot. So like the responsibility of said property, like maybe doesn't do for me. Plus, because of the last couple of years, I've been in apartments and I'm like, dude, these amenities are awesome. Like all the extra stuff. So it's interesting that I was talking to a guy from Indiana today. I think that buying habits and also what people want with the new technology is changing too. So I think there's a massive market in small multifamilies, rentals in the Midwest. I really think that, these kids are moving up. Maybe they don't want a home. So like, I think the market is in, 4 to 6 to 20 multifamily, I think is a sweet spot.
Yeah, it really is. 4 is nice because you can house hack it, or you can, still get a traditional 30-year loan on it, with low down payments and everything like that. Above that, 5+ units fits into the commercial. I love that because then you're valued less on comps and more on your, NOI. So we can have a lot larger impact on, value appreciation, forced appreciation.
So break that down for us, for anybody that doesn't understand the difference when you get off comps.
Okay. Yeah. So 4 units and under, traditional loan. So you're going to go buy your house. It's going to be $200,000. The appraiser is going to come in and there's been 6 houses that have been sold within the last year that are, plus or minus 10% of this price. Great. It's worth $200,000. The bank says, okay, You go to a duplex or a fourplex, 4 units and under, it's going to work on the same process. Hey, these other multifamilies have sold, they sold for $200,000. You want to buy two for $250,000? Sorry, that's a no-go. You get 5 units and over, that falls into a commercial loan. So the commercial loan, then they're going to look at the sales approach, right? So they're going to look at comps. Hey, other 20-unit complexes or sets of fourplexes have traded at X dollars per door. You got 20 units, $50,000 a door. Okay, $1 million, great. But then they say, okay, let's also look at the income approach. And they're going to say, okay, based upon the current income of, let's use a number, $10,000 per month, $120,000 per year, divide it by the cap rate. Okay, here's what this property is worth. Okay, based upon its current income, it's worth $950,000. Well, if we're able to push that rent $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, divided by the cap rate, then maybe it appraises out at, on the income approach, 1.05, 1.1 million. Mm-hmm. So then you have additional equity. So then you can get to a refinance faster, or if you want a sale, then you've got more proceeds on the sale.
No, and it's amazing because when you step into the multifamily world, when you get above 5 units and you get to 50 or 60 and you change some things, you put the waters on the tenant, you remove rents. I mean, guys, we're not talking about a couple $1,000. We're talking about $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 pushing what you said, the forced appreciation. It's very, when you understand the vehicle of multifamily, it's you can understand why everybody's so excited about it.
Yeah, it's really great. And kind of circling back, having a sophisticated property management company coming in, that's the service we provide, right? Somebody's like, hey, I'm looking at this 20 units. What do you think? I think here. But then we get the rents to market rents. We add pet fees. We add common area fees. We add a RUBS. Okay, you're going to increase your income by this month, by this much per month, time 12 months. Hit the realtor up. What's the cap rate here? Okay, it's an 8%. Okay, it's a 6.5%. Divide that by 0.08, 0.065. Boom. There's $137,000 in value we just added to your property. Mm-hmm. Great. Now you've got 15% more equity.
I love it. So I did want to ask you a question because I was the first guest on your podcast. You've had many episodes since then, or I don't know how many, but some. You were like, should I do one? We're a property management company. I'd love to hear your experience with it and kind of just what you think so far.
Oh, with the podcast. Yeah.
With your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been great. So I've talked to investors and I've talked to owners, syndicators, and other property managers. And it's really great to get other people's opinions on what brings the most value through, property management. Because sometimes it's a contentious relationship with owners. If the PMs are sucking, it's like, the PMs, you guys suck. Well, it's kind of owner, you bought a sucky property. Or you bought a decent property, but there's only sucky tenants in this area. Whatever that may be. It's brought the whole picture into light, which we were kind of already seeing. Then also talking to other successful PMs and saying, hey, what was your key to success? What can we do, better? I had a conversation with one just earlier today. I got notes right here, and kind of what was their strategy? What's your biggest key for success as a property manager? And they're saying, hey, communication's an issue, right? We don't want to have owners calling us and saying, hey, what the hell's going on? We want to be like, hey, preemptively be like, hey, just want to let you know this is going on, or our systems are in place to where we don't even get to that spot, right? So, proactive communication.
Well, it's interesting, different segment, but the Airbnb is the same way. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, why is my property not performing? Well, your property sucks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Because ultimately, I think what's interesting about just us owners, separate from you being an owner, is that a lot of investors and a lot of people white label cities and asset classes, and we don't as people. I do because I'm weird and I like to study this stuff. We don't study enough of human behavior and projects, right? Like perfect example, like San Antonio, Texas. There is 12 skyscrapers, or massive projects that are slated in the next 5 years. Well, if you're not paying attention, you don't know that. So you're like, well, the market's hot. Well, yeah, you ain't even seen anything yet. Just wait till the W comes in. Wait till this gets done. Yeah. But that's because I'm out there talking to developers, talking to property managers, talking to people, the restaurant business yielded that kind of like talk, we're doing this. So as an investor, and I'm merely saying this to say this, if you are wanting to get in a new market because your market is pushed out or the price is ridiculous at the moment, you want to connect with people like Colin. You want to have a conversation. You want to jump on the phone. You want to ask people, hey, are they doing what they say they're going to do? Guys, what do you think of the market? Because I think what people don't understand is you're getting paid on performance, so you better perform. And so it's like he would only tell you the good stuff. And I think people keep stuff too close to the chest sometimes when we need to have some conversations so you can figure out a new market.
Yeah, absolutely. People want to come into this market, and I've known other PMs, and they're great PMs, right? I don't want to say anything bad about any other PMs, but we all know there's good and bad in every industry. But other good PMs, and they're like, they just white label whole zip codes. They're like, no-go zip codes, these, and these, right? And I'm like, okay, that's great. And you've got a great business model, and you've got a certain clientele that you're catering to, and I really can appreciate that. At the same time, an investor comes in like, I can't afford to buy a house here, but I could buy one in this C-class neighborhood. What do you think? Well, let's figure out how we can optimize this C-class property for you so you can get the most bang for your buck, right? And sometimes it's not as nuanced as a zip code. Sometimes it's maybe, okay, these 3 streets or these handful of blocks, these are worth it. You might get shot over here, but not over here, right? So,
well, I mean, put it this way. I think especially new investors, they're like, let's attack Austin, Texas. We're going to hit up every market. And I'm like, I got a better idea. How about you pick 2 zip codes and you get a deal in one of those zip codes and you pound the pavement? I have a friend, a developer out of Nashville. When he was starting, he's a young developer, but when he was starting up as an agent, he's a broker. He doesn't leave. Now he does, but he didn't leave a 10-block radius in East Nashville for like 6 years. Like he literally did not leave a 10-block radius because he said, it's a waste of my time. And what happened is he just became the East Nashville broker. And he was like selling the same property like 3 times. And it's like, but the new thing I'm doing, right? It's so funny that I'm talking to you, and I mentioned it to a guy I was just talking to. I'm trying to debunk the myth. Because I've talked to a lot of agents in smaller places that you have to live in an Austin, a Dallas, an LA, a San Francisco, a Chicago to make money. These cities in the Midwest, these smaller Texas towns, there are brokers and investors just killing it. Like I have a friend in northern Michigan that's just murdering it.
Austin, please stop giving away all the secrets.
It's the truth, right?
Listen, I am enjoying not having competition. Why are you going to do that?
Hey, listen, I'm going to make you feel really good about your life. And you drink or no?
Occasionally.
Okay. Well, when you are sitting around your business partners and you are cracking one open tonight, I want you to tell this story, okay? In the last 3 days, I've had 5 agents reach out to me. They put offers in on houses, $100K over asking, no contingency, close in 3 days, didn't get the house. Wait for it. There are, within a day and a half, there's 67 offers on houses. And then the new construction list for one development is 500 deep on the waiting list.
What is the price of that? What is the price point?
So that house that is probably worth like, I don't know, 260 maybe. Sold for like 390.
That's stupid.
It's dumb. I know. I don't understand. Stupid. I don't get it.
All right. Let me give you the I don't know, X suburbs or whatever they call it, tertiary markets to cities, whatever. So I live in a town of 5,500 people, east of Kansas City. I live out on a farm just outside the city, right? It's great. I love it. Love the rural town, rural Missouri. It's kind of trashy, but I love rural Missouri. Yeah. And but there's other small cities, right? That's where I started investing. And we've seen great success. Me and a couple of people, we bought 18 units at the beginning of 2020, $500 per door, average rent. As of last week, average rent across the portfolio, $597 per door. Perfect. And it's great, right? And the barrier to entry is pretty low, and the demand is there. And like everybody's like, hey, I got to be in Austin, but people from the coast now, at least the ones coming to Kansas City, like we can't afford anything. So we want to invest in the Midwest. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great. Bring it on.
No, and it's interesting. I have a buddy, Adrian Salazar, who does deals in San Antonio, but he was like, well, shit. I mean, we're going to start doing deals in McAllen, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody goes to McAllen, Texas. He's like, I do. And so in the span of a year and a half, he's wholesaled a 33 unit, wholesaled a 16 unit. They own 190 units and they own like 5 Airbnbs. And he's like, this is easy. Like, because like he's the big dog and there's a bunch of older dudes that have owned property for 40 years and they're ready to get out. They're ready to move to their ranch and they want to see a young hustler and they're happy to strike a deal.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's what we're working, right? The first thing I bought in this town was a 7-unit complex for sale by owner, guy that had it paid off and owned it for a long time. And he's like, yeah, I'll let you get it back up to where it needs to be and I'll owner finance it.
And what's interesting is I was talking about it on Clubhouse this morning and nobody ever talks about this because it's not sexy. Money's not sexy. But a lot of, if you read the tea leaves, a lot of the East Coast, West Coast are just bigger players with the New York market, the California market. They're repositioning debt, like meaning that they're getting out of a risky investment. Maybe there's a ton of equity in it and taking that debt and moving it to the Midwest or Texas or Arizona and reposition it in what they consider a less risky option on a lower risk portfolio. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening, guys. Like you're not paying attention to what's like going on. That's okay. We'll still make money while you're doing what you're doing. But you have to think farther than one transaction. You have to understand the movement of money and the movement of people. And so if it were me, you do what you want to, but you've already got the construction company. If it was me, I would start building some new construction.
Yeah, no, that's on the horizon.
I love it because that's what makes me excited.
Yeah, no, we're fleshing that out right now, and we'll talk offline about some of the stuff that we're working on.
We can't tell. We already gave y'all enough. So if people want to find out about your podcast, they want to find out about you, how do they do that, bud?
Yeah, so our podcast is Elevating Property Management. We are responsible for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets. We can't be a mom and pop operation. We need to be on the levels of bankers and accountants and other professionals with how much money we're dealing with. We're collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. We're distributing it back. We're paying bills. So we need to elevate our game. We need to elevate property management. Check me out on LinkedIn, Colin Douthit, Instagram, Atlas Property Management. So we're kind of all over it.
I see what you did there. I liked it. All right, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.